I loved your film. It was, yeah, I mean, I can kind of relate because I grew up Southern Baptist as well, but I was not like mega church Southern Baptist. I was more like little church. But yeah, I could totally relate to a lot of things in that film. So I'll just get started. Can you both talk to me about how you came to this story in this film?
Raised Southern Baptist as well, but at the height of the megachurch culture, it seemed like, and I think the essence of this film came from us in our desire to question things that didn't seem right or that didn't feel right, and sort of being met with resistance to that questioning, and so essentially that's where this was born, because I think that as we got older, we realized that this resistance to questioning was really in order to sort of protect the powers that be and let them go unchecked.
Yeah, this is a very important film. And I actually wanted to talk to you both about the tone of the film. You kind of threw me for a loop because I was like, it's like a Christopher Guest film in a way, like mockumentary, and I'm just like, oh, this is going to be hilarious. But what I love what you guys did is as the film was going, those bits of, I guess, hilarity were starting to be stripped away and you really saw the reality. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts about the tonal shift of the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was important to us look, unfortunately, these sorts of topics aren't new and have definitely been explored in television and film. But I think specifically because Black folks are very specific, we knew that we were going to have to sort of like Trojan horse what we were actually trying to say in there.
Yeah.
And so if it feels like just kind of like a romp about these two like kooky megachurch people at first, then you sort of start to relax. And I feel like that relaxation allows you a sort of allows more to enter, and rather than like going in and feeling like you're going to drudge through a super painful drama.
Right.
Yeah. And I also think that, there's something to be said about, I think we're kind of interested in stories that kind of purport to be, or on its face, it's like, it's all good until it isn't, and then when it isn't, it just isn't. So there's no real use in pretending that we're even in the same spot in life anymore, because it's all good until it's not.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. And there was some hilarious bits, we go into Lee Curtis, Sterling K. Brown's closet with all those shoes and everything. I mean, it's a bit like, oh, that's a little much, but it was funny how that played out. So yeah, and then that kind of goes with my follow-up question. How did you get Sterling K. Brown and Regina Hall on board for this film?
It was all about having the right network, to be honest, and having the right connections to be able to put the material in front of them.
Yeah, so I mean, one of our producers, I think, was friendly with Regina's agent. Adanne was friendly with a producer who was already working with Sterling, and so knew his manager. And luckily, when their reps read it, they thought that it would be great for them, and then in turn, they also really responded to it.
Yeah, that was kind of casting that's like almost too perfect. Like, you guys did such a good job. Their chemistry, I mean, even though there's a lot of problems there, their chemistry is great on screen. So I thought that was a good match. I wanted to talk about Regina Hall's character transformation, Trinity, because I always like to talk about female characters on the screen and, kind of what they represent and how they might be different than other characters you see on the screen. I really appreciated like her transformation, as complex as it was. Who did she kind of represent to you guys? Did she represent any type of people? So.
I would say she's kind of representative of a lot of Black women who are steeped in their faith, specifically Christianity, of a certain generation.
Yeah.
And who adhere to certain standards because of their faith.
And who are both admittedly and unadmittedly trapped by that.
Yes.
That whole mime bit was like cringing and I don't know, where did that come from? That whole like her doing the makeup, because that seems symbolic in a lot of ways as well.
It's definitely symbolic, but praise miming is a real thing.
Yeah.
And so it was working on I think a variety of levels. I think the first is that, you know, as a character, Trinity envisions herself as like the queen of their church, and Curtis is essentially begging her to be a court jester. And so the miming very much, it's like clown makeup, and that's breaking her, but also I think it's just another layer, another mask for her that is going to be, that ends up being too heavy for her to bear. Like eventually it cracks. She could only put on a false face for so long.
Yeah, that's great. And then something else I appreciated on screen was having the boys like come to Lee Curtis at the end, really taking a stand against him. I feel like that doesn't really happen enough. And in having a situation where, you know, a church enclosed situation with like something with sexual assault, I think if people see that on screen, they have the courage to stand up. So I think, you know, I want to say, is this a question? I don't know. I really appreciate you doing that, because I know there's so many people who've probably been affected with sexual assault within the church. Did you want to comment on that choice of bringing those boys out in the end?
Yeah, I think from the inception of the script, we knew that was going to happen, and we knew that Lee Curtis was never going to check himself. Trinity was never going to check him directly, and so it just felt natural that, you know, someone who was a victim of his abuse of power should be the person to do it. And we wanted, I think that is powerful. It is being able to do that as someone who is in kind of like the submissive part of a dynamic, to be able to, you know, have that courage.
Yeah, and I think it's also playing into this idea that there's so much gray area that we don't address as a society, because a lot of people, and it's represented by a lot of like the radio phone calls, but a lot of people don't, because they weren't children. Everyone was of age. They weren't technically children. Everyone was of age, and because it wasn't like forcible abuse, is that abuse? And it's like, well, yeah, because there's an abuse of power. There's a dynamic there, and I feel like more often than not, we're willing to sort of sweep that under the rug because it doesn't seem as dangerous or damaging.
And I also think people didn't care because they were young men versus young women, and young Black men, and people already ascribe an inherent sense, like level of sexuality to young men, particularly young Black men.
Yeah, or even Black strength, men, or even strength. And so it was important to me that like that person had a voice, because more often than not, they're silent.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did that. It's like I May Destroy You. I don't know if you've seen that series.
Oh yeah, we're obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's just like it changes your way of thinking, like about consent and what like means no and what means yes. And you know, there's so many things that I didn't necessarily think about in my growing up about like, is this assault? Is this something, you know, like it was definitely black and white, but it's not black and white. It's totally gray. So I really appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna ask my last question here. What do you hope people see in your film?
I hope that people see an opportunity to question everything and not take things at face value, especially if it doesn't look, sound, or feel right. Don't just let it pass you by. But I also hope that people see an element of hope, that there is the room and the desire to change the structures that don't positively serve us and aren't from a place, a healthy place or a loving place.
Yeah, I'm so excited, about this film. I can't wait to get the word out, and also just whatever you two are doing next, I'm on board. So
thank you so much.